Let's move on to our first topic of discussion today. It's no longer news. The Nigerian banks are rips off their customers through excessive charges. About the rates at which they do it these days is becoming alarming. Even incidences of excess bank charges have been more prevalent since the deregulation of the industry in the late 90s and early 2000s. In August 2021, the Central Bank of Nigeria disclosed that it has so far recovered 89.2 billion naira excess and illegal charges slammed on customers by banks and maintaining that its customer protection department has been inundated with many complaints and excessive charges from customers. Despite these complaints, the illegal practice still persists, causing many bank customers to close or abandon their accounts and by extension frustrating the efforts of the Apex Bank in broadening financial literacy and of course across the sector. Well, let's look at this and we also assess the role of central bank in curbing this excessive bank charges that we see every time on our phones, on our alerts, on our emails. Let's get talking. I have live in the Lagos studio is the forensic auditor and chief executive officer of BVA Partners, Mr. Okechukwu Anuforo. Good afternoon. It's good to see you, sir.
Good afternoon, Tolu. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm going to start with the new one. I think that was on Friday. The central bank came up with a reduction on charges on withdrawals on ATMs. I think we're from 65 naira to 35 naira and all of them. What do you make of this policy direction and reviews like this one? The masses will be happy about it, but what do you think about the banks? How would they react to all of this?
Absolutely. Of course, it's bad news for the banks and good news for customers, really. But the issue of bank charges and excess bank charges is something that would is a discussion that would not go away anytime soon, because as long as we continue to have lending activities, then these things will happen. As long as banks remain, under pressure to generate income, you would have situations where these kinds of things continue to happen. Now, on a regular basis, CBN is always interested in what the market is saying, and of course, with the recent figures out there, I tell you, customers are losing a lot of money, and you have an obligation as a customer to be vigilant around your finances, especially at a time like this. So yes, it's not too good a situation for banks to deal with, but again, it's the good side is banks now need to get more creative. What I mean by that is it's no longer going to be business as usual. Because seriously, we all know that our banks we think they're not serious, really. What I mean by that is they don't want to take risks. Do you get? So they want to just do the easy kind of banking.
Yes. That's why I'm happy. Sorry to cut in. That's why I'm happy with the treasury bills and all of that the rates are now very low.
So look at this. What it means for the banks, for instance, is this. Your ability to earn money is reduced. It means you need to now dig deep, get more creative, create the kind of solutions that customers will even ask for and be willing to pay. On the customer side, it means more money in our pockets. More money to the pocket means, because we just talked about 89 billion plus, right? Imagine that kind of money back into the economy. We have money to spend, and you know what spending does, and to the economy and things, in terms of economic activity. So it's bad news for the bank, good news for customers. But at the end of the day, I think CBN is in the right direction.
Now, moving on to accountability and responsibility, I'm looking at how we can better develop seamless transactions so that we don't have all of these problems. And also, what do you think about the way regulators address complaints from customers?
I'll tell you, CBN is doing a good job, but of course, it can always be better. I mean, it can only be better. The Consumer Protection Department, which was set up in 2012, was as a result of these kinds of complaints. It's not just CBN that pays attention to these complaints. You have the Bankers Committee as well. So the regulators, I tell you, they're doing a good job, but they can do a lot more. And for us, as forensic auditors, we also play a major support role, to the regulators, helping to ensure that you know, banks do their job, customers are aware of their rights, and always staying vigilant, really, because as a matter of fact, at a time like this, you need to be concerned about how much you're paying, how much you're losing in, you know, how much it costs you. A typical financial, if you look at a typical financial, the component of finance costs alone is often significant. And like we said earlier, when you have a situation where your income generating ability is kind of dwindling, you need to now work on your cost management. Sure. And the key component of that cost is the finance cost we are talking about. You know, so the regulators, whether it's Bankers Committee, CBN, the Consumer Protection, CPC, yes, right? Yes. Exactly.
I think they're now FCCPC, Federal Competition and Competitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Protection.
And then independent forensic auditors. You know, we work together, you know, to achieve some kind of synergy with a singular objective of making sure that the customers are protected. And I tell you, there's really nobody who doesn't feel the impact of what CBN is doing in terms of making sure that the banks, I mean, banking services are made as affordable as possible. If you're talking about, you know, growing the inclusive banking, making sure that banking services really get to the vast majority of the people, then we need to make it affordable. And so part of making it affordable includes working on this cost. And it's a regular thing. I tell you, don't expect that the reduction that we've seen, the modifications around the prices will just stop right now, even on what we have.
Yes.
After some time, of course, CBN and with the regulators in conjunction with the forensic auditors will still have to regularly, it's a regular process as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about forensic accounting or auditing, whichever way. I think it's about, it kind of, your profession, you can help guard against fraud and some other things. I think you have some things to do around it, but let's talk about frauds generally in banks and sharp practices. What roles do you see forensic auditors and even the regulators playing in addressing this? It's becoming a recurrent decimal. People talk about it every time. You hear people, I even heard one as bad yesterday that you are restricted to take some money in your account. Someone pushes money into your account. A lot of things are happening. Don't not happen to me in person, but we hear people talk about this, and we need to bring it up so that people can understand what can be done to address sharp practices and fraud in our banking system.
I can tell you that we cannot wish these things away. They will continue to happen. I mean, as human beings.
Because they even happen abroad.
Absolutely. As human beings, you know, there's only the temptation to want to cut corners and things.
Yeah.
So the primary responsibility of anybody who runs a bank account, and I guess more than 90% of the people do, one way or the other, you have something to do with your bank, right? Your obligation, you owe yourself that obligation to monitor your account regularly. And one of the easiest things to do is to always have a forensic auditor by the side. And that's what we are all about. I worked in the banking industry nearly 10 years. And that was really when I discovered that customers lose lots of money on bank charges. All right. And these things happen not necessarily sometimes because people want, you know, because of fraud, right? There could be genuine mistakes. All right. Absolutely. True. It can happen, you know, can have a system glitch, you know, something goes wrong, and then, you know, so, but talking about fraud, you know, it's a human, we are humans, and we always want things, you know, the cheap way, the fast way, if we can, right? So I don't think it's possible to eliminate it, but the thing is, the regulators are always watching. Systems and controls are always in place. I mean, as a bank, you need to ensure that you have robust systems, control systems, all right, to ensure that these things are either eliminated or reasonably reduced, okay? And then ultimately, as the customer himself, as the person who uses the banking service, you need to monitor your accounts. And one of the easiest things to do is to have a forensic auditor by your side. And that's what we're all about. And it doesn't cost money, really, you know. Sure, absolutely.
Sure, I'd get the service of a forensic auditor. So is it a personal thing, or is for the banks to have them side by side?
Okay, so yeah, banks have it on their side, their forensic auditors too, who also ensure that they're watching their systems and ensuring, because you employ people, you don't have control over their their character, as it were, right? Good. So you should have your forensic auditors on your own side. Yes. And then as the customer too, you also need to have your forensic auditor who helps you. And guess what? As a forensic auditor, the kind of expertise that we have is way beyond the regular accounting, auditing that people do, companies do in-house. So there's always that imperative to have a forensic auditor by your side all the time, helping you to watch your books. I can tell you, doing this business the past 5 years, nearly 800 million naira for our various customers across industries.
Wow.
Absolutely. And like I said, it is not that people have deliberately gone to steal your money. One of the reasons can be mistakes. But I tell you, banks are under pressure to also generate income, all right? And so sometimes there could be that temptation to go overboard. And that is where CBN always tries to say, hey, you know what? You can't strangle these guys to death. Lots of businesses continue to go down. A lot are struggling.
True.
But if you take out that element of the excess charges, you will see them bounce back to life. We've had a situation where someone who was said to be owing about 200 million naira, it turns out that this guy wasn't owing the bank anything near 50 million.
Wow.
Yes, the difference was, excess, illegal, all kinds of frivolous charges and things.
I'm thinking because this is really getting interesting. That technology has come into a banking system, fintech, and we see what's been happening with our transactions. Look at when COVID struck. We couldn't go out, and a lot of transactions, people kept on doing transactions at home. So I'm also worried that the negatives of technological advancement in the banking industry. What's your assessment? How are we building those kind of walls that can, prevent us from falling into any form of fraud with technology that we use at the moment? Absolutely. It is something that should worry
anybody, because with this technology you're talking about, it's such that just a little mistake, a little clicking on the computer, millions, possibly billions gone, right? I will tell you that our banks are doing a good job, but it can always be better, all right? As you speak, you have 5 Nigerians nominated for Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation.
Wow.
Out of 11 Africans, 5 are Nigerians.
Wow.
So we have smart
guys,
fintech guys in Nigeria. And I tell you, in fact, I read a report too. Our banking technology exploits, it's up there. It's up there. I don't know what the ranking is saying Africa-wise, right? But our technology, in terms of banking, our banking technology, it's something commendable, but like always, it can be better.
Just like the e-invoicing and the e-transaction, e-valuation and all of that the central bank wants to introduce. They've actually suspended that now because the manufacturers and all of that are complaining about that. Can you react in any form to the suspension of the implementation of these guidelines of the e-invoicing and evaluation thing?
I tell you something. We resist change a lot.
Yeah. You see eNaira too.
That's the point. I tell you, one of the most beautiful things about technology is it has the way of removing inefficiencies, corruption, and things. Yeah. So you find that when you computerize some of these systems, it eliminates the need for physical contact, where people can now, do some of those under the table transactions. And so someone can tell you that a project is not working, the e-form is not working for whatever reason. Meanwhile, what is really happening is they want, such people with such interest don't want that project to succeed, because if it succeeds, then the leakages that we are all suffering from and complaining about will still, will continue. Just like our electoral system that we're talking about, computerizing the system. If you do that, it's the transparency that you see in our electoral process, and so bringing it to the invoicing thing and the other one you mentioned, I'm just thinking the one major reason it could have been suspended. I don't know the facts. I haven't acquired, right? But I'm just thinking, the Nigerian thing. Yeah. Isn't it possible that some people who feel threatened, who feel, wow, might want to truncate the process.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, really, but it is what it is.
Well, almost finally, I'm back to the CBN. Many are even saying that the CBN is gradually moving away from its core mandate of maintaining stability, monetary stability, and policy measures and all of that, that they are moving away. And let's look at Ministry of Finances on one side. They have their roles. That's the fiscal side. What do you think about the synergy between both sides, the central bank, monetary policies, and fiscal policies at this time with all of this? Do you think there's a balance in this?
Of course. There's always this complaint by most people who have to weigh in on this conversation about the disconnect among not just our financial regulatory institutions, even the security. So you find that the army and the police do you understand something, working in silos kind of thing, you know. So but we've seen some level of signage and cooperation between the Ministry of Finance and CBN. But like I always say, it can be better. You know, it can be better, especially if we're talking about specifics now. So the monetary, the thing is, if CBN is doing monetary and the other people are doing the fiscal, if that balance is not there, then you know, when two do not agree,
there's always a problem.
Do you understand?
So let's wrap up now. Moving on in 2022, what are your expectations for the banking industry? I think we are getting a little bit of COVID stress in this part of the world, but I think in Europe it's still not too good. Maybe in America, I don't know, the figures are not still, but at least not as bad as it used to be. So what is your projection for the banking industry? What are you thinking? Do you think it's going to be stable? Do you think, you know, as we move on in 2022?
Okay, so as we get into 2022, there have been projections here and there. World Bank projects that Nigeria GDP will grow by 2.5%. Africa Development Bank projects 2.8%. And they're also saying that per capita income would potentially drop. And by the way, the projected growth in GDP will be driven by rising oil prices and stuff. And then, of course, with the easing in the COVID restrictions. But you see, I don't like economists. Sometimes they give you some scary kind of outlook and things, and then, you know, so I choose to believe the opposite. Having said that, what I think about the banking industry is banks are now going to sit up, all right? They're going to get more creative, because like we said, if you already know that your income making ability capacity is has been, you know, you're limited in how much money you can make, it then means you need to get creative around coming up with solutions that people can even now want to ask for. A typical example is, if you're limited in charging the 35 Naira that we just mentioned now, okay? Now, if you're dealing with 10 customers, your job is to get 20 more, 30 more. Do you get? That's what number one projection. Number two, outlook, what I see is that it will mean more money for the customers. Imagine 89 billion Naira back into the economy. Imagine what it will do to us. Number three thing will be, like I keep saying, businesses should pay attention to their books, to their bank charges, especially if you're running on loans. You're doing any business that doesn't run on with a forensic auditor, you're doing yourself a major disservice, really. As an ex-banker, like I said, that's what we are all about. And it's so important to stay close, because really the projections are not looking good, whether it's IMF or African Bank, it's not looking good. And so it means we need to look more inwards, all right? Look more inwards and then, you know, work on your costs. You know how it is when as an institution, you're limited in how much money you can make and things. It's now you're looking at the items of cost to drop, to reduce, to probably eliminate and things. So as an individual as well, it makes sense to now say, hey, you know what, where am I losing money? Where am I losing money? And well, how can we get it all back? So 2022 will be a fantastic year, if you ask me. Yeah.
Is government giving you forensic audit? Are they giving you your role? Are you having your role to play across the country, or what? Do you need any support from government to help strengthen the forensic auditing space?
Practice. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course. CBN has been cooperating, but of course they can do better.
Can always be better.
Absolutely. We've worked for a number of government agencies because they also understand that, you know, I mean, at a time when oil revenue is dropping, government is not making as much money as they used to, you know, so they are also looking at their books and things. So yes, we work with quite a number of government agencies.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a good way to leave an interesting discussion. There, I've been speaking to a forensic auditor, you say the Chief Executive Officer of BVA Partners is Mr. Okechukwu Nuforo. They're giving us insights into, well, issues around the banking industry. Very importantly, when we talk about money, talk about the bank. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you on the show. We hope to have you in subsequently when we have any issues around the banking sector.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.